I'm over here at the haul truck, and this is going to be an intro to the shop update. Now, that may sound like a conflict between shop update and haul truck, but I'm over here to the haul truck because I have to build something, and it's going to be part of the shop update. And I'll show you it in a minute. So this is the existing leaf spring on the haul truck. It's 2.5 inches wide. And if any of you follow the video of the haul truck, you know that I'm putting another axle on it. And the U-bolts on that other axle are wider and they are farther apart. So this little piece up here, the steel piece, is what kind of held the existing U-bolts that went down through it and bolted to the axle itself, bolted through the axle. But this piece up here kept the U-bolts from sliding back and forth, and kept them stabilized in place up here, and not directly on top of not directly on the leaf spring, providing kind of a curved surface there for the bend of the U-bolt. Okay, so the new axle has wider U-bolts. This is the existing U-bolt. This is a new U-bolt. So you can see that they're wider, but they're also spaced farther apart. So I can't use this. I can't use this because, one, the bigger thing doesn't really fit into that notch, and two, the spacing on it is wider. So I had to build a new plate that stabilizes the top of the U-bolts. So just so happens this is what I came up with. Now, why this is spaced up here is because, as you can see, that there's a nut, a bolt goes up through here and keeps these springs, these leaves, in place. So this is going to hold the U-bolts in place like that, but it's also going to provide a platform for a airbag that's going to go in here, but that's to come at a later date. So what I'm doing is making this. Now, what happened is this one got made because somebody came into the shop yesterday, and they were working on their car. They needed my shop to work on their car. While they were working on their car, and me providing a little hand here and there for them, I built this, but didn't videotape any of it. Didn't videotape it because they were in here. So this is going to be, I'm going to do the second one on tape, and it will be part of the next shop update. But I just wanted to kind of show it to you, show you what it was going on, because in this shop update, there's also going to be those shim spacers that go in beside these things. I'm going to show you the build of that. So we're going to go through that. There's a couple of other topics that I'm going to cover. One of them, it was in a previous shop update when I told you that I was having issues with the truck. Well, I resolved those issues, and we'll go into that. We'll go into the shim spacer build. I made a little haul. I'm just going to show you the trailer with the equipment on it where I had to haul it to. There's going to be no traveling video. And a little update on the toolbox too. So stay tuned. Okay, I'm in Herkimer, New York. I'm waiting on the guys to unload this. I'm not really sure where they're unloading. 6-inch Schedule 40 galvanized pipe and some 3-inch Schedule 40 galvanized pipe. It doesn't weigh a lot. I think it's only 3,000 or 4,000 pounds, but sitting in here behind a Denny's and Red Roof Inn. think I'll head over to Denny's, get something to eat. Okay, in my last shop update, I had come back from that long road trip and kind of showed you or talked about doing some maintenance on the truck, which was some oil changes and filter changes, etc. One of the things I also talked about was an issue that I was having with the truck after I got back. I got back from the road trip, had no issues with the truck, but again, as I discussed, I hardly ever shut the truck off on the road trip. The only time that the truck was shut off was at the loading or unloading of the equipment that I was hauling. When I got back and shut the truck off and got some rest and woke up the following night and went to drive the truck, it started fine, got it out on the street, and it started hesitating. Now, I wasn't driving it very far. I took it over to my grandson's house where I was eating dinner, and then I told him about the problem, and we took it out for a ride afterwards. And the thing, after it warmed up, stopped doing what it was doing, the hesitating or skipping. It was also blowing black smoke out of it while it was doing that. So what happened was I pulled the next day, came in here and showed you pulling, changing the oil, changing the fuel filters. Well, the issue continued on, even after I had changed the fuel filters, and found no water or moisture in the fuel filters. And there's a fuel separator on the fuel filters that would indicate whether there was water in it. I found no moisture, no water in the fuel separator. So I asked a guy that I know, a diesel mechanic, about it, me thinking it might be an injector issue. I asked a diesel mechanic about it, and he said no, that he didn't really think it was an injector issue because an injector issue wouldn't stop doing it after it heated up. He thought it was probably a fuel issue. So let me shut you off and take you over and show you how I fix this problem and why the problem occurred too. So here's the product that solved the problem. It's called Power Service Diesel 911. Somebody else told me about this product. After I told them about the problem that I was having, they said you probably got moisture in the fuel, and try this product. So I went to the normal place where I buy fuel and fueled up and added a bottle of this product to it. It covers 100 gallons. This size bottle covers 100 gallons, and my total fuel capacity in the truck is 100 gallons. Well, it's a little over 100 gallons, but let's call it 100 gallons. So I added this product to it, and now I had a load on the trailer when I got fuel. I had a load that I had to haul the next morning. So I had picked it up, went to get fuel, and added this product when I bought fuel. After you leaving the fuel station, I probably got about 10 miles down the road and started noticing a difference in the performance of the truck. It became peppier, it had more power. And so I took it back. I dropped the trailer off at the shop and took the truck home. got up early the next morning to go make that delivery and had absolutely no problem with the truck that I had prior to it. So this product, this Diesel 911, solved the problem. So let me talk about what I think the problem was. When I had been out on the road trip, I was buying diesel fuel at major truck stops, Flying J, Pilot, Love's, etc. Well, I was buying that fuel, and most of those stops were basically in areas like Kentucky, Tennessee, and then it started getting into Washington, Idaho, places like that. The last place where I got fuel was in Iowa. And I had bought this at the first truck stop that I stopped at, and started adding it to it because not knowing the truck stop when you're traveling, it's all supposed to be winter blend, but you never really know for sure. So I got this and was adding it to the fuel every time that I fueled up. What I think happened is when the last fuel stop that I got it at, and probably prior to that also, but again, the truck had never been turned off and allowed to get cold and restarted again in those conditions. They blend ethanol with diesel fuel. And it's more prevalent in some areas of the country than in other areas of the country. Ethanol is a big, absorbs moisture hugely. And what I think happened was when I bought it at the last truck stop in Iowa, it was probably an ethanol blend and it had moisture in it. And when I got home and it cooled off overnight, and when I went to restart it the next day, it was way below freezing, and even though it started up all right, it reacted to it while it was cold. Now, I'm not really sure how that process works, why it didn't do the same thing once it heated up. I'm not really sure, but I have no doubt after putting this and getting back to my original fuel station that does not use an ethanol blend of diesel, I have absolutely no problems with it. So if you ever have an issue with your fuel, moisture in your fuel, or water in your fuel, this stuff works magic. I got to tell you, within 10 miles of leaving the fuel station after putting this treatment in, I could tell a huge difference in the way the truck was towing the load, the performance of the truck. I knew right away that within 10 miles right away that this stuff had helped. And it was proven overnight when I got up the next day and that issue had gone away. So Power Services Diesel 911, keep it on board if you ever have fuel issues. So in this build, I just set the GoPro up on the tripod and I didn't talk in any of it. Here I am at the Baldor flap disc, a coarse flap disc, or a grinding wheel to do it, but they were very small pieces, and it's much easier just to stick it on the ball door grinder and grind that bevel on it so that I can get good weld penetration in there. Okay, so on the shim in the mock-up, or in the other shop update video where I first showed you this shim and how it was going to be used, I had MIG welded that one together. I decided to switch to TIG. Two reasons. One, I hadn't been TIG welding in a while and needed to get some practice in, or get in the groove again of TIG welding. The second reason is it's easier to control the amount of buildup that you get into your V-notch in these two pieces. So using TIG, I'm able to control how much filler metal is going into the V-notch and keep it level and straight, where it's kind of important on the bottom of the shim where it rests on the surface of the axle plate. You don't want a build-up there so that the thing rocks or is uneven. You want it level, straight, smooth across so that it sits flush onto the axle plate. If you guys are wondering about that flashing that is going on as you're looking at it, kind of so am I. I mean, I set the welder up, I turn the welder on and set the amperage. Now the welder does have a pulse sequence on it, and I'm pretty sure that pulse sequence was off because I didn't notice this when I was welding it. But I was weaving my hand back and forth. It's hard for you to see it, but I was doing that. Maybe it was a distortion of the light from me weaving my hand back and forth, but if I turn that welder back on again and it is on pulse, I'll kind of let you guys know. Before I bought this welder a couple of years back, I had only TIG welded once in my life, and that was quite a while ago. It was a scratch start TIG weld. It was kind of hooked up to a regular welding machine, and it was the old style scratch start. I mean, some people still use that, but so it's kind of why I wanted to, I don't TIG weld that often, and I really kind of wanted to practice, and it was a good opportunity to do it on this and use the control so that I didn't overfill that V-notch that I had made in the material. I've said this before, but big thing in welding is being comfortable and being in position. That's why that block of wood is there, and I'm resting my hand on that block of wood, so if I can't move my hand along the block of wood to flow with the weld, I can always pull the block of wood, drag the block of wood underneath my hand to obtain that flow. The other hard thing in TIG welding is getting that dab technique down, the rod, kind of controlling it with your fingers on my left hand there, and try and push that rod through at an even pace. You've probably seen me a couple of times where I've actually pulled my hand out to readjust the rod, kind of did it right there, readjust the rod in my hand. There's some people that have it down to a science of just being able to control that rod between their fingers, between their thumb and index and middle finger, and just kind of push it through continuously, and that's not me for sure. Man, fucking hot. I don't like that, not at all. Not at all. Okay, so here are those shims. Now, this is the first shim that I did, and as I had discussed in the other video when I originally explained about these shims, that the bottom of it, where it lays onto the axle housing, has to be flat. So what I did, this first one, I MIG welded it. And what I did is just ground that off there. Here's the other side. So it's humped up a little bit, and I'm just going to leave it like that. Now I haven't wire brushed that or anything, so there's a little bit of the glass on there still. But the other side is, I just ground it off so that it would lay flat on that. So when I went to do the second ones, like I discussed in the videos, I hadn't been TIG welding in a while. So what I did is I just TIG welded it. That way I could control the bottom side and how flat it was on there. So there they are. I will kind of show it in another shop update, installed and in place, along with those other brackets that I have to make for the top of the U-bolts. I'll just show it in place, but you can also see these shims and U-bolt brackets being used in the haul truck series. Okay, guess what I got? Liners that fit. Let me sort out the tools, get them in there, and I will do a toolbox tour of this, the new box with all of the tools organized.